Merry Christmas 2018. Each Christmas season, I sit down to write my letter, and I could never imagine that the following year would be more exciting than the one before, and this one was a dandy. After living in sin for nearly 3 years, Rennie and I married on the 28th of April. While tying the knot had always been the plan, this is already take 3. I'm not interested in doing this over and over again. I'm using my Christmas tree branches as something to hold it up. Okay, all right. Where was I? Do you remember? We had 17 days prep time and we pulled it off. Arrangements were made to hold a small gathering at the neighborhood pool surrounded by family and friends. Randy's parents and all of his children were there, and Zeph gave me away. The joining of our family was official and marked by a sand ceremony symbolizing just as grains of sand, we would not be separated. All of the kids enjoyed being a part of that, and we have a beautiful decanter of colorful sand representing each of us to keep as a memento of our special day, and I wore a black dress. In June, Randy graduated from the Jack Welch Management Institute through Strayer University with distinguished honors, earning an MBA with emphasis in organizational leadership. Only a few days behind him, I too graduated with honors from the Art Institute of San Antonio, earning a Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Interior Design, not to be confused with interior decorating. Our individual service to our nation not only afforded us each the opportunity to earn an education, but to do so debt-free, and for that we are thankful. This year marks the 90th annual 4th of July La Chance LaBreche family reunion celebration. When I heard my grandpa Zeph would be attending, I made plans to surprise him. I flew from San Antonio to the beautiful Upper Peninsula of Michigan and to the tiniest airport I've ever seen. In one photograph, I snapped a picture of the ticket counter, TSA security, waiting area, the gift shop, and baggage claim, a far cry from Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, where I worked all those years ago. My trip was an adventure as Dave, whom I've never met before, picked me up from the tiny airport and took me to Barbara's, whom I've never met before, to stay for the week. It turns out Dave and Barbara are cousins to one another and cousins to me. This sort of thing happens a lot in my life, not usually with relation, but in general. I've always got a story. It's because, well, my charming personality and good looks. Grandpa Zeph rode up from Saginaw with his nephew Lawrence and my dad. He was surprised to see me when I walked in. Had I only seen him for 5 minutes, the whole trip would have been worth it just for that moment. The following days were filled with little get-togethers and lots of shared meals, catching up with faraway relatives, and spending time just hanging out with my grandpa. Grandpa Zeph and 3 of his sisters, Delphine, Dee Dee, and Elaine, are the last living of 14 children. While I've met the aunties a few times before, this visit was the first opportunity to say more than a polite hello. We really got to visit several times over several days. It was a visit I will treasure. As I sat with the aunties and my grandpa, I saw a love I'd never seen before. They called each other sister and brother and reminisced about childhood memories and folks from long ago. They smiled and laughed and enjoyed their time together, a time rarely spent so closely and for so long. In all of my life, I've never seen my grandpa so happy as I did during that visit, and I'm so glad I was able to go. I headed back to the tiny airport to go home to Texas, but before I did, I took a pit stop to meet Randy in South Carolina as we decided in the spring to move away from San Antonio. We'd found several places to look at, but it turned out they looked better online than they did in real life, as so many things do. Our Texas home would have tenants by the 1st of August, so we needed to leave, despite not knowing where we would go. I only stayed one full day in South Carolina house hunting, as I would need to get back to the Texas house to be ready to be packed. Randy visited Virginia for most of July so that his kids could visit with their grandparents over their summer break. Because he was so close, he returned to South Carolina 4 more times without me before finding an adequate home. I was reluctant to agree to put an offer in, but could hear the excitement in his voice when he called to discuss it. He's never steered me wrong, and we put in an offer, and it was accepted. At the end of July, our Texas house was packed and our things sent on their way. We said our goodbye until next time to our dear Texas friends and headed north. We set out on a road trip that would take us to see Jeanette and Jeremy in Missouri, John and Elizabeth in Indiana, and then Auntie in the Michigan woods. We stayed with Auntie until the end of August, when we would close on our new house. When the time came, we headed south once again, this time Carolina bound, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, over the Chattooga River, through Sumter National Forest, and down in the holler is our house, tucked back deep in the woods. Cue the banjos. I saw our new place for the first time the day we got our keys. It was built in 1993 for old people and looked like it was built in 1993 for old people. I was a little apprehensive as I first saw it, but its potential, I was a little apprehensive, but when I first saw it, I was a little apprehensive at first, but I saw its potential and I was eager to make it our own. The very first night, Randy and I decided to take up the living room carpet. I always say carpet is disgusting and other people's carpet is even worse. What an understatement. With pry bars in hand, we began to take up the 25-year-old flooring, and smack dab, right in the center of the room, was a giant brown stain measuring about 2 feet by 4 feet. You reckon there's been a murder, Randy asked. We had a little chuckle and went on about our evening. As time went on, though, and the Facebook post got more attention, I decided to pour hydrogen peroxide on it to see if it would react, and it did. So we called the sheriff. Jim, Bob, and Daryl came up the mountain to see what they could see. They called their forensics guy, who requested a sample, so Randy cut a piece of the subfloor with a circular saw. I bagged it, tagged it, gave it the old Olivia Benson, and put up the crime scene tape around the perimeter of my living room. That last part was just for dramatic effect, as I asked the sheriff for crime scene tape, and he obliged. I snapped a couple of selfies and went back to our home renovation. A few days passed, and the sheriff called to let us know the blood is not human. So, apparently, Smokey the bear's wife gave birth in my living room, or somebody decided to dress a deer. It's likely I'll speculate at another time and compose an outlandish story about exactly what happened in hopes of getting published and becoming independently wealthy, but that's for another day. Less than 24 hours after moving in, I flew to Virginia, met up with my bestie Kate, who recently moved back to the mainland from Hawaii, and went to my friend Dina's wedding for the weekend. Dina and I were introduced while I was in the Navy, and we became strangely close email friends. We've been in contact for over 5 years, but only met face-to-face that day, but no one would ever know. Kate and I stayed in Chantilly, Virginia with our friend Tara, whom we met in the Navy in 2004, so it was a very nice reunion weekend. We hadn't all seen each other since San Diego. I returned home to South Carolina that Sunday, and Zeph started kindergarten that Monday. Living in the sticks means schools are far away. He'd have to walk 12 miles uphill both ways. But lucky for him, Miss Linda, the bus driver, will come get him right at the end of the driveway. The stroll to the bus stop is a little bit scary, as our property is heavily wooded and seems there's always something rustling in the leaves. Something growled at me the first week, and it was then that I decided not to leave the house without a pistol. There have been a few mornings when the adrenaline rush from shining a deer who didn't stay still or the impending attack of an armadillo have been enough to wish me back to the big city where it was only Folgers waking me up, but it is what it is. I do enjoy nature, however, I mostly enjoy it from this side of the window pane. There was that one night not too long ago, a black bear came up onto the porch with hopes of taking our pumpkin. Randy saw it. I was sleeping, but he sure woke me up to talk about it. So the next morning, I not only took my pistol to the bus, but I took my husband too. That only lasted a day though, as he told me to be the brave warrior he knows that I am. We didn't request our household goods be delivered until we had already been in the house for 11 weeks. We found squatting roommates, the scorpions and the spiders, and booted them just as fast as we could. We slept on air mattresses when we first got here, and that was a lot of fun for about 4 days. Until it wasn't, and then it was awful. But that allowed us time to turn our 1993 chalet for old people into a stately edifice, as Randy likes to describe it. I would call it kind of rustic farmhouse and cozy, seeing as there's nothing stately about our place in the woods. We do, however, have some very nice floors. I decided I'd like to do something fancy. We laid hexagon tile in the entryway, and I cut in with hardwood flooring at the transition to meet the tile. It took 9 days to install the new flooring, doing all the work ourselves. There's a lot of satisfaction to be able to say I did that. We're really proud of it, and my husband has announced Pinterest is secured. In addition to new floors, we replaced the standard builder's trim with 6-inch mop boards and matching window frames. I learned to hang a ceiling fan and replace outlets and switches. We hired Miss Evie to do most of the painting, and we made a new friend in the process. Most folks know other folks around here, and everybody is so friendly. Whether it's a chat in line at the Home Depot or a visit to the tax man, I think I've been invited to just about every church in a 40-mile radius. The Baptists want to make darn sure my soul is saved. We finally got our household goods in November, and I've been working on putting the house together. Pictures still need to be hung, and there's lots more to do, but it's coming along. Auntie has visited from Michigan twice already, and it's a huge help whether it's painting or she's armed with her chainsaw for the cutting of a fallen tree. She brought my mom down for Christmas, and Randy's kids have all joined us too. This will be the first time all 7 of us were together for Christmas, and I look forward to many more to come. We expect Randy's parents and his brother Jimmy's family as well. We will have a full house. Zeph turned 6 on the 6th of December and is growing like a weed. He loves Legos and building and has been enjoying living in the woods. He's doing well in school and making friends. Life is good. Despite all the hustle and bustle, moving, and long list of to-dos, we've had lots of opportunity. We've had lots of opportunity to see faraway friends, faraway family, and visit more with those that are close. We've made new friends, a new home, and have seen many blessings bestowed upon us. As 2018 comes to an end, we look forward to a new year. We're happy, healthy, and loving life, and that's what it's all about. We wish you and yours a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year too.